Okay, guys, we are back. So we're going to talk about 50 Cent. Like, oh my God, 50 Cent did something spectacular, immaculate. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you must have been living under a rock or in a cave. But let's talk about it because 50 Cent has worked together with Netflix to release a documentary on Sean Diddy Combs. So it's Sean Diddy Combs, The Reckoning, right? It's going to be a 4-part docuseries. We've seen part 1 so far on Netflix. It's trending and critics are chiming in and people are saying, even the people who are very professional and extremely professional in their delivery, they're saying they see no problem with the documentary. They don't see where 50 Cent was being hateful or biased towards Diddy. He told the story and he told it exactly like it is. And when you watch the documentary, it was clips and pieces from everywhere over the past couple of decades that was curated and carefully put together, thoughtfully put together. It told the story, and I believe it was professionally done as well. I believe if you watch the documentary, you could not tell that 50 Cent has been trolling Diddy on the internet. You can't. You seriously could not. It was professionally done. However, Diddy's legal team is trying to get the documentary pulled from Netflix. One of their strongest, if you hear me sounding a bit weird or sound like I'm saying something that's not English, that's my Jamaican patois coming out, okay? And our patois is like a bit of our Jamaican dialect. It is not a bit, it's a significant portion of the Jamaican dialect mixed with a little bit of the English, British dialect, a little bit of Scot, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah, we are a nice melting pot over here in Jamaica. But anywho, that's not what we're here to talk about, right? So, as I was saying, the documentary, it was just amazing. And I believe 50 is going to get an award. No, 50 Cent is saying, like, how could I just sit aside and not do anything? As they say, the only thing necessary for evil to survive is for good men to stand aside and not do anything. So 50 Cent is saying, if I stood aside and didn't do anything in this, it would seem as though the hip-hop world is okay with Diddy's behavior, and we're not okay with his behavior. And it is true, but I'm just saying that 50 Cent, it was professionally done, but in all honesty, I can see both sides of the argument. I can see what Sean Diddy Combs' legal team is saying. I do. Does it mean that I agree with them? Absolutely not. If I had to say, like, if someone would say, if you were to truly say, give Diddy legal team a point in all of this, what would you give them a point for? I would say the footage that the videographer gave to Diddy. So Sean Diddy Combs had some kind of plan based on what I observed watching that documentary. And Diddy's plan, it seemed as though, he's an opportunist. And this documentary makes you realize that that man is a sick, twisted, disgusting human being, right? We're gonna get into the details at portions of the clip that made me realize it. And if possible, I may insert portion of the clip. Like, I don't want to, but I just may take the chance, right? But, in the clip, right, you could see, as it relates to the portion where he got the videographer to film days leading up to his arrest, and how he was living a life of luxury. He was unbothered. It seems as though everything gets that man excited. Everything gets him excited. It seems as though it doesn't matter what it is, he's going to find some excitement out of it because he wasn't crashing out. It seems as though he was just happy and he was excited that the world was looking at him. The world was talking about him. He doesn't care if it was for good or for bad. And he saw an opportunity in that moment. So I believe that he hired that videographer because he saw himself coming out of this victoriously. And maybe he had a backup plan as well in the event that he wasn't victorious. But I believe he hired the videographer because he's going to make a documentary himself and he's going to tell the story from his point of view. There's no other reason for him to curate that moment. It's a money-making opportunity for him. Everything gets him excited. And that's how you know that this one was definitely on, that pink powder. He gives possess too. He gives possess. If you've read your Bible or if you have sat down with your grandparents and they have told you anything about some ancient stories or some ancient Bible stories, and they will tell you about, wandering spirit. It seems as though Diddy has that wandering spirit in him. He's possessed by that because he was just excited. And while he was in the car, he was talking to some girl and he was like, oh, you want to scream? You want to scream the crowd? Yay. It was just all excitement for him. And if that doesn't tell you a lot about this man, I don't know what else is going to say it. But as I've said, if I was to give his legal team a point, I would say that clip from the videographer would be the point, because how the hell did 50 Cent get his hands on that? Like 50 Cent knew everything that was going on every single step of the way. And it goes to show that, people really wanted to see Diddy being held accountable. Even as you watch the documentary, everyone who gave a recollection of their experience with this man wanted him to go down. And this documentary tells you that this is like not even a quarter of Diddy's crime. This documentary, using the clips from the past, his own words, his own body language tells you that this is not even a fraction of the crimes that he has committed over the years. And one such moment for me is when he was asked about the passing of, when he was asked about the passing of Tupac, the way in which he answered it, he had a smirk. He was like, when he was asked, do you have any involvement with the passing of Tupac? He was like, no. He literally wiped the smell off his face. He literally wiped the smell off his face. Like he's saying, whoa, I'm still proud of that. And all this time, I didn't believe he was capable of doing that. If you guys remember, I did a delivery on Sloan Belly's video and Sloan Belly said it was a father-daughter duo that had political ties and political connection. But when I saw that portion of the clip when, I don't remember who was interviewing him at that point, because last night I was doing a lot. I was catching up with Hallie's performance. I was watching the documentary and I was looking at other things that's going on TikTok, in the Jamaican diaspora as it relates to Hurricane Melissa. So I was everywhere. I was like an octopus, but that grabbed me and I replayed it. A few times. And he was like, no. And that tells, that moment for me was a moment I said, this man is evil to his core, because even if he's not directly involved in Tupac's passing, he's indirectly involved, allegedly, but no one cannot tell me that he's not involved somewhere, somehow. That clip, that few seconds right there, he was like, No. And even then, when he was saying the no, he could hardly maintain his composure. Hardly. And when he was asked about Biggie's death again, like, did you have any part to play in any of that? And he was like, when his lips was serious, his eyes were smiling, like he was like he's saying, damn, I'm so freaking good at this. I'm so good at this. Like, I've been just taking out people and getting away with it. Like, he gets excited at everything. And when you look at how Biggie wanted to leave for England, he brought Biggie to LA. It's like there was a deal with Biggie's life. There was a deal with Biggie's life, and he was the one who was asked to lower Biggie to LA. And he was like, oh, even though the Crips told us not to come to LA, we're going to go to LA. And then he threw a party in LA. That was just a distraction. And you saw the clip of Biggie saying, Biggie was saying like, damn, like something is up. Like, I've been having these weird dreams and people have been threatening me. And Biggie is saying he's scared. Like, I almost cried for Biggie in that moment because you know what? Anyone who has listened to Biggie's song knows that Biggie was no saint. He wasn't an angel or anything like that. But if you're in tune to your humanity, that clip was just, that section would have you really realizing that Biggie knew his time was coming. He knew it. And I don't know if it's something about, Jamaican people and our heritage, but let me tell you guys, it was that moment I had to pause the video. I had to pause the video and I had to pull myself back because I felt so heartbroken for Biggie. And I'm like, yeah, he lowered Biggie to his death. He lowered Biggie to his death. He might not have done it directly, but he was the one. Seems as though he was there, like, and how he literally rose himself to the status of king, and he put on this facade that I'm your friend and I'm going to be tough and I'm going to be strong, and even the gentleman that was telling, both guys, I forgot their names. Their names were on the screen, but I was so in tune to the story that they were telling. But the producer guy, not the one with the locks, not the older guy, the middle-aged one, when he was asked, like, he could not even talk about Biggie. He was like, I don't even want to talk about it. He was so heartbroken. It was so heartbroken. And when I looked at Biggie's mom in the interview, like, she was so strong. She was so strong. Do you know those mothers who knew that they've done their best with their child and their child has chosen a different path? She couldn't control it, but you could tell that Biggie's mom was still somewhat grateful that her son made something of himself, and he did it in such a way where it ties him back to who the mother is. You could tell that Biggie was coming from an educator. You could literally tell that he is a child. He's a product of an educator. You hear it in his music. He was a poet. He was really, really good at it. But I tell you that I was so heartbroken for Biggie. I was so heartbroken for him. And then Diddy was like, when You're trying to tame a wild animal, you know, Diddy telling the people to cancel Biggie's flight to England, cancel it. And he told them to cancel Biggie's flight to England, but he never got Biggie's security. And that is what surprised me. I was like, why didn't Biggie hire a security team? It seemed as though he knew not seemed as though he knew Biggie so well that he used all the things, like he was just setting up, you know how you want to catch a mice and you set the cheese around or the meat around. He set Biggie up with everything around him that he liked, the party style, the girls. He wanted Biggie to be so distracted, in my opinion. That man is evil. That man is evil to his core. He is evil. Like, watching that documentary even has me asking, is Sean Diddy Combs even a human being at this point? I honestly believe there's an entity living in that man. I honestly believe it. If someone should say there's an entity living in that man, I would say yes. You can see it. You can literally see it. There's an entity living in that man. I don't think he's even human anymore. I think the flesh is there that God made, but I think I think he has stepped out of his body and an entity has stepped in. I don't think he's human anymore. I really don't think so. And this, like, if this is just the first episode in 4 parts, just imagine what we're in for. Just imagine. Have they released other parts? I'm going to have to go back and look, because when I tell you that I kept rewinding. Even with Tupac's passing, how he told the guys to just rent some cars and have the cars. Like, he did it with Tupac and he did it the same thing with Biggie. He created these distractions around them. And when you look at I'll Be Sure, this documentary is so good. It really helps you to connect with each character. It really, like all the main characters, it really helped you to connect with them. When you look at I'll Be Sure, and when he was saying, you know, when he heard that Kim Porter was dating Diddy, he was like, no way she would do that. I can see why he said that, because when you look at who I'll Be Sure is, his level of class, how that man carries himself, how he delivers himself, you would say, hell no, why would she Diddy from a I'll Be Sure to a Diddy? Even though we don't know I'll Be Sure in his, you know, personal life, but when you look at his delivery consistently, like, you would question, why would Kim Porter go from an I'll Be Sure to a Sean Diddy Combs, you know? Why? How did that happen? And it seems as though Diddy tries to understand a person so much so that he figures out all your moves and he knows how to really get you cornered. And that's what he did to Kim Porter. He got her cornered. 50 Cent did amazing with this documentary, but his legal team, they're trying to get the documentary pulled. They won't be able to. The court is not going to pull it. The court, because if you even look at the investigator, what the investigator said in all of this, and Keefe D, not Keefe D, what's the other guy name? The one that is doing time, who will be on trial for Tupac's murder, come next year. If you even look at, you know, the investigation when the feds had granted him that immunity, so for him to tell his story without them charging him, right? And how he told his story, you know, it really tells you the kind of person that Diddy is and how Diddy figures out. He sits down and he study these people. And if you look at how the investigator delivered, saying that ain't no way, 2 deaths, people close to you, you're the only one that is literally remained standing, him and another guy. Like, ain't no way the court is pulling this documentary. No way. It doesn't matter how. They're not going to pull this documentary. This documentary is going to get a lot of people taken down. I don't know how many more people they may delete, because if you haven't been paying attention, about 4 to 5 people got deleted after Cassie filed that lawsuit. And many people allege that those were the people who knew of Diddy's actual crimes. And they allegedly tried to get those people out of the way before the trial because they couldn't jeopardize it. Well, 50 Cent did an amazing story. I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch that documentary again. I want to watch it at least 2 more times, because ain't no way. Even with Misa, we're going to have to talk about her in another video. But leave your comment below, guys. Let me know what's your take, and we're going to talk some more. Peace.